Module 13 review, baby. All right. Let's do this. Okay, so if in any case module 12 gets rejected for rejected for not being reasonable, then this is what happens, okay? I know I summarize it like these into these fancy tables, but I'll explain to you what these numbers actually mean, okay? So we have two different ones. I define them as the beer group and then the cultures group. Don't ask why they're different. They're different, just know that, okay? So, so some key main important things here is that in the beer group, you have 5 different groups with 5 different measures and 5 measure per participant. So that's the difference here. It's continuous, independent, single factor. And the reason I was going to say that was because I did this question first, and then it came to this where it is normally distributed, but it doesn't have the same variance. So if we're not being reasonable, so you got to read the question because it's in the nature of the question. The beer group, there's obviously going to be one guy that's going to say, I hate all beers. And so that's exactly what happened. And I just noticed that they all ranked a beer. They were all ranking beers. So that's why it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just noticed that right now. So that aside, they say that it is not normally distributed because there's going to be one human that's going to be like, I don't like this one particular brand of beer. And I don't know if this is rated in like 5 to best one's worst or if it's the other way around. So this is essentially how it works. So we know it's not normally distributed. So let's get that out of the way. Your next thing you're going to see is that whether this is a Friedman or what's the other one? Coolharsey or sign test or student test. And so the correct choice here is Friedman test. I don't know the reason. The module will explain to you the reason. Basically, I trialed and errored this. Null is 0. So pretty much typing the answer, all you got to put is the number 0. And then after that, it'll ask for a chi test. Well, it won't ask you for a chi test. It'll give you 3 different options. I think one's a factor. The other one's a chi test, which is the one right here. And the C, I don't remember. And then all you got to do is say C or like H or the research hypothesis is large. So we have to prove that it's not 0. And so obviously we're given these rankings from the contestants. And so this is essentially what's happening. They have all ranked it, and group 1 has 46, 17, 31. And you can see here that 11 people did this. They were divided into 5 groups. And well, they did 5 different beers, and they all measured each different beer. Okay, so essentially what I've done here is that I've broken each calculation down. I usually have this as an ignore section, but I thought I highlighted the numbers because in module 11, 12, the formulas got completely out of hand and no one knew what was going on anymore. So it's like, okay, what is the formula here? So essentially what I have done is that this is essentially so yeah, ignore the weird cut here, but basically for the beer group, essentially, don't ask me why this is pink. Okay, so I've divided it into 3 components, basically where the black is what the table you were just looking at. Basically, you see here how it's like yada yada yada. If I were to change this all to ones, or I changed one of them to 1, that's fantastic. Okay, so if I change this all somehow to like 1, 1, 1, you see here this is changed and this is changing all the other values. I went negative almost instantaneously. That's scary. But you can see the idea here as to what's going on. So this is just to figure out everything for R1. And yeah, you got to square every single one of them and then sum it all up. And so that's exactly what's happening here. E15 squared, that's F15 squared, G15, you get the idea. All 5 of these have been squared right here, and they have been added all together. So you can see all 5 of them have been added together. So that was just simply the black part. And then for the blue part, so this essentially you got to do 12, which is a hard number, by the way. You don't change this ever. So yeah, don't ever change this. This stays solid no matter what. And then so the P is determined by the number of measures, which we already established for 5. And total was 11, and then yeah, and then it just sort of becomes a repeat. And so when you start to break all of these numbers down, you could see here that this is the blue number. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna fill this in as blue. That was the blue number. Obviously, that's a black number. Let me just bold it. And then this is the pink number. So there's no pink. Excel, you gotta have more pink here. Okay, and that was the pink number. And so when you put all three of those together through the simple process of multiplication and subtraction, you get your final end product as this. And you gotta enter it in 2 decimal places. And you're wondering what this 4 is here for. Though this is your DF, and so this is you're probably, yeah, number of groups 5, and this is just number of groups minus 1, that's the DF, which is 4. And so usually everything here you gotta enter all the values in, and the answer is given to you. I'm not going to use this in the walkthrough, don't worry. I like to show a little bit of transparency here, but maybe for module 11, A and B, I might need to go back to the module or the Excel just to know that I'm doing everything correctly. Okay, so now moving on to cultures. Well, basically I summarize it as culture. Basically people are sharing like sort of their cultural experiences and how they experience certain cultures. So this is pretty much a 4 groups. As you can see here, 4 groups. 1 measure per participant, continuous between participants. This is naturally defined, obviously, because it's a culture thing. And some of these questions where it's like, okay, I have to figure out my one weakness, reading the question. And this is where we confuse it all, where it's like normally distributed, but it's not the same variance in each measure, because some people put their culture up as like way to the extreme, while others are more chillax about it. So it's essentially what it is. And once you state this, like usually normally distributed, same variance, and then here you would say this is a Kirschwell-Wallace H. I have no idea. This is a trial and error again. Same thing here. You put 0 g squared, and then yeah, this becomes routine after a while, and then you got to do the same thing here. And usually when a rank is like it's the same, what they would do is like, let's just say there is a 3.5, and they'll skip 24 altogether. So if you try looking here for any of these 0.5s, you're not going to find a 24. Good luck finding that 24. And they did the same thing with 12. They skipped 13 altogether. So actually a better example would have been 23 and 24. I apologize for that, but you get the idea. And so that's why there's these 0.5 values. Don't be surprised. Usually comes down to this, and sometimes there are different n values, so you got to be careful of that. Each n requires a different n group, and total obviously being here, and then the groups. There were 4 groups in this particular one, that's why the groups here. Usually it doesn't translate well, so you just got to put the input number here. And then same thing here, where basically I've taken it to the whole extreme. So give me a sec. So yeah, here the formula is going to be a little different. You can see here that the I put the RI squared into a bracket and then divided by the I and I. So this is not going to make sense right now, but here, let's just change this value to 10, right? Oh wow, it's changed almost instantaneously. Okay, so we can see here that that for this particular group, that 175.5 squared gave us this value, and because it was divided by 10, which is 35, so if I were to remove this, there, you can almost see that change. So let's put that back. So this really does matter. So let's put that 9 back in there. And really this doesn't matter. I already completed the module with like 40 mistakes on a good day. And so that's essentially what happened here. So I've taken the square of like this specific number and divided by its n value. And so that's why you got to do the square first, and then you divide it by the n. And then once you get all these final values, you got to add them all up, as you can see over here. And that's, again, that's just doing this specific second section. The other 2 are easier compared to the sum part, but you can obviously see what happened here. Thank you, Kaspersky. Okay, so, and oh, the Kaspersky threw me off so hard. And so you can see here, we're just using the n total. It's 36 times 37, which is a very big number. And 12 divided by a very big number gives you 0.01. And then over here, -3 times 37, you get -1111. You know what? I don't like the fact that it's like this. Yes, that's much better. And then we get our final answer here, and then the same thing with the DF, and then it becomes an accept reject situation. So yeah, that's pretty much, that's all it is. I'm not going to use this. Hang on, let me just color code it so that you guys know which ones I'm talking about again. This is the sum, so I'll just bold it. This is the blue color, so I'll just leave it as blue. So you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's module 13 review, and hopefully you guys see the walkthrough.